Hey guys, PDT here. And now, I know you're expecting Chapter 4 of My Immortal. This isn't that. I've been wrestling for the last 24 hours or so with the idea of whether I should continue My Immortal. And I'm going to continue. I'm not going to keep you tantalising for the next 10 minutes and go, nah, I'm cancelling it. I am continuing, but I just wanted to kind of talk through some of the sort of issues and things that have come up around it, really. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be getting to this when I started doing it. Because, it became obvious with yesterday's end. It was already kind of obvious that this is a troubled young woman who wrote this story. The whole mentions of self-harm and things, it made me feel a bit unsure about whether I should be covering it anyway. That's why I've started putting a warning on the front of it. Because, I don't want to be responsible for anybody being triggered and things. I know, people mock triggers and things a lot, but with self-harm, suicide and things, it can... I know from myself when I've been in dark periods in the past, it can be bad. So, she's, first of all, get the elephant out of the room, get the elephant out of the room, get the elephant in the room, out of the room, because, look, it's obviously been speculated all over the place over the years that this could have been someone trolling the internet, and, yep, could well be. I don't necessarily think that would make it any less entertaining. They've clearly done a good job of, if they are trolling, of emulating a really bad writer. It's kind of like my dad wrote a porno. They made theirs up. Oh, sorry, I wasn't meant to say that. But no, it is. It almost doesn't matter whether my dad wrote a porno is based on a real thing, because you're buying into the product. As long as you can kind of buy into that fiction, the entertainment is in there. It kind of doesn't matter whether it was actually real or not, as long as it's consistent. And from what I can tell, My Immortal is going to be pretty bloody consistent. That said, we can only go with what's written down. We take it at face value, in a sense. And in that sense, what's at face value is that, a troubled young woman. And I've really been wrestling with this as to whether it's okay to continue dissecting it and, mocking it. And I guess by extension, her, it is clearly a deeply personal piece where she has kind of laid bare the drama of her kind of turmoil at the time. Look, it is that kind of teenage exaggeration of things like depression, but that doesn't mean to say that there wasn't real angst there, real turmoil. We've all been there at various points. I waited till my early 20s till I had LiveJournal. Mercifully, I deleted it all long ago, so I've never been able to go back and read it. But I know I wrote some fairly dark and overly dramatic shit. And that's what she's done here. But again, it doesn't mean that it's not real for her at the time. Obviously, she's not a vampire, But, I did some more research, and one of the more troubling things is, I know this is technically a spoiler, but I think it's worth addressing, that at some point in the process, she does, in her author's notes, allege that she's made a suicide attempt, largely because of the negative reactions to the story. And, I read that and I felt deeply troubled. What I will say is it comes, about, I think, chapter 16, chapter 17 or something like that, and there's 44 chapters. So I'm kind of heartened by the fact that, she then continued on for another 30-odd chapters. It still makes me feel, is it okay to be kind of joining in the pylon, as it were? And I think for me, there are two things here that kind of make it okay. I'm still wavering on it. I think the main thing is that obviously it's 10 years ago now. This story was, I think, either written in 2006 and 2007 or just 2007. You know, she got to chapter 44, she finished it. I believe it might be an intentional ending, but I can't quite tell. I guess we'll find out when we get there. But because I've only read sort of snippets of what people have said about the story as a whole, and doing some more research, it looks like a couple of years later, she was still making YouTube videos with her friend Raven, the one who's mentioned in a lot of the author's notes. So she got through it, is what I'm saying, I guess. And that heartens me, and also the fact that it's 10 years later. I guess she would have been, they think she was about 14, 15 at the time. That seems to match up with kind of what's going on there. And, I think it's very likely, and I hope against hope, that she's in a perfectly mundane and reasonable and respectable job somewhere. She looks back at this and sort of cringes, and probably also has a certain small amount of pride, that this thing that she created has had its own life. I mean, if you look up, because this is the thing, you look on the internet, it's had films made about it, it's had so many dramatic readings and things. This is not new ground. I think there's not many people who have done it the way I'm doing it, and nobody's done it exactly like me doing it. And I'm bringing it to a different audience to those who say would normally have seen it. So I think it's still worthwhile me doing it from that perspective. But I think the fact that it has been tackled so much means, frankly, it's a very small sort of, a very small piss on a very big river, into a very big river. That's a really poor metaphor, isn't it? But anyway, so lots of people have done it, and that doesn't necessarily make it better, I suppose. But in the end, I kind of turned to the Tommy Wiseau film, The Room, which I love, and I love for all the wrong reasons, because it's weird, it's bad in so many weird ways, and I'm feeling that's the thing I felt about this the first time I read any. It's bad in such kind of weird ways that could only have specifically been written by this person at this particular time. And I find that kind of fascinating. For all the kind of mentions of self-harm and things, there's so many kind of quirky things in that, and we're only just touching the tip of the iceberg. We've yet to get to the Draco sex scene, and I think there's threesomes and all sorts of things, and many more characters from Harry Potter are involved, as I understand it. So yeah, I'm hoping, I'm kind of, I feel like I have to assume that, she's out there somewhere. Tara Gillespie, as I believe is her name, or at least her pen name. Actually, her pen name was something like Blood on Wrists, which should have been my first clue, but never mind. Yeah. And, I think the thing is, this is bringing joy to people. Her story, not, like Tommy Wiseau's The Room, he's very much embraced the fact that it has brought joy to people. It doesn't matter if they're not enjoying it in the way he intended. I think even a work as personal as these, you kind of have to divorce them from the author to a certain extent. They leave the author's hands and they're out there in the world. They can get interpreted in whatever ways people see fit, and I'm kind of choosing to do that. I hope that, judging by the reactions so far, and thank you very much for them, I feel like I'm doing a good thing in this and maybe I'm justifying something that is fairly abhorrent to myself. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Be honest. But yeah, I think the fact that this is going to mean people get enjoyment out of her work sort of via my interpretation of it, I think that makes it okay. But we're going to tread carefully, and I'm sure this might not be the last of these sorts of videos. But there we go. Part 4 will be coming in the next few days. I just wanted to, get some of my thoughts out there about the problematic nature of my Immortal. So that's been me, and I'll see you on the next chapter.